Dr. Alex Carter stared at the screen in front of him, his coffee growing cold as he studied the strange readings. The sensors on the research ship New Dawn had picked up something unusual near the edge of the Kepler 442 system. It was not a planet or an asteroid. The energy signature was too organized, too purposeful. "Captain Miller, you need to see this," Alex called out across the bridge. His voice carried the excitement that came with discovering something new in the vast emptiness of space. Captain Jake Miller walked over, his boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes who had been exploring space for 20 years. "What do you have, Alex?" Alex pointed at the display. "There's something out there. It's big and it's giving off power readings, but it's not moving in any normal pattern. It looks like it's just drifting." The captain studied the data for a moment. "How big are we talking?" "About 3 kilometers long, maybe 1 kilometer wide. That's larger than most ships we've ever seen." Alex's fingers moved across his controls, trying to get a clearer picture. "The power output is weak, like emergency systems running on backup power." Captain Miller made his decision quickly. "Change course. Let's take a look." 2 hours later, the New Dawn approached the mysterious object. Through the main viewing window, the crew could see it clearly now. It was definitely a ship, but unlike anything humans had ever built. The hull was smooth and curved, almost organic looking. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly in the darkness of space. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's other medical officer. She was a small woman with short brown hair who usually kept her thoughts to herself. "But where did it come from?" "Scans show the hull is made of materials we don't recognize," reported Tommy Chen, the ship's engineer. "But there are definitely life signs inside. Very faint, but they're there." Alex felt his heart beat faster. First contact with alien life had always been his dream. "Captain, we need to board that ship." "Are you sure it's safe?" Captain Miller asked. "The life signs are weak. Whatever's on that ship, they need help." Alex was already putting on his spacesuit. This could be the most important discovery in human history. 3 hours later, Alex floated through the airlock of the alien vessel. The artificial gravity kicked in as soon as he stepped inside, and he found himself standing in a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. The walls glowed with a soft blue light that hurt his eyes at first. The ship felt empty and cold. Alex's footsteps echoed as he walked down the hallway, following the readings on his scanner. The life signs were coming from deeper inside the ship, in what looked like a medical area. As he explored, Alex saw signs that this ship had once held many people. There were living quarters, eating areas, and rooms filled with strange equipment. But everything looked abandoned, as if the people had left in a hurry. Dust covered most surfaces, and some areas showed damage from what might have been an emergency evacuation. The medical bay was huge, with dozens of beds and machines that Alex couldn't identify. Most of the equipment was turned off, but in the far corner, one machine was still running. Its soft humming sound was the only noise in the empty room. Alex approached carefully. The machine was connected to a large tube filled with a clear liquid. Inside the tube, floating in the fluid, was a person. But this person was not human. She looked young, maybe in her 20s if she had been human. Her skin was pale blue, and her hair was long and white. She had 4 arms instead of 2, and her face was longer and thinner than a human face, but her features were gentle, almost beautiful in their strangeness. Alex checked his scanner. This was definitely where the life signs were coming from. The machine was keeping her alive, but just barely. Her body showed signs of serious injuries, though Alex couldn't tell what had caused them. "Hello?" Alex said softly, even though he knew she couldn't hear him. "Don't worry, I'm going to help you." He spent the next hour studying the machine and taking readings. His medical training helped him understand some of what he was seeing. This was definitely some kind of medical life support system. The woman had been here for a long time, maybe years. Alex called back to his ship. "Captain, I've found someone. An alien woman in some kind of medical tube. She's alive, but barely. Can you wake her up?" Captain Miller's voice crackled through the radio. I think so, but I need to be careful. I don't know what might happen. If I just turn off the machine. Alex worked slowly and carefully. He studied every control and wire before making any changes. Finally, he found what looked like a wake-up sequence. He pressed a series of buttons, and the machine began to hum, louder. The liquid in the tube started to drain away. The woman's eyes opened slowly and she began to move. Alex stepped back, not wanting to frighten her. When the tube opened, the woman fell forward. Alex caught her before she hit the floor. She was light, much lighter than a human woman her size would be. Her skin felt warm and he could feel her heart beating fast with fear. She said something in a language Alex had never heard before. Her voice was musical, but he could hear the panic in it. She tried to pull away from him, but she was too weak to stand on her own. It's okay, Alex said gently. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm here to help. The woman stopped struggling and listened to his voice. She said something else, and this time Alex thought he heard a question in her tone. Alex activated his universal translator, a device that could learn languages by listening to them. It would take time to figure out her language, but it was a start. My name is Alex, he said slowly. I am human. You are safe now. The woman's eyes went wide with surprise. She had large, dark eyes that seemed to take up half her face. She pointed at herself and said a word that sounded like Zira. Zira, Alex repeated, and she nodded. As Alex helped Zira sit down on one of the medical beds, he noticed something that made his heart sink. Her eyes were not focusing on anything. They moved around the room, but not in response to what she was seeing. And when she tried to move her legs, nothing happened. Zira was blind and paralyzed. Alex felt a mixture of sadness and determination. This young woman had been alone on this empty ship for who knows how long, trapped in darkness and unable to move. But she was alive, and where there was life, there was hope. Don't worry, Zira, Alex said softly. You're not alone anymore. 3 days after bringing Zira aboard the New Dawn, Alex sat in the medical bay watching her sleep. The alien woman had been through so much in such a short time. First waking up after years in that tube, then being moved to a completely different ship filled with strange creatures she had never seen before. Dr. Lisa Park entered the room carrying a cup of coffee and a data pad. The test results are ready, she said quietly, not wanting to wake Zira. Alex took the pad and studied the information. The scans they had taken of Zira's body told a sad story. Her nervous system showed massive damage, particularly in her brain and spinal cord. But the strangest part was what had caused the damage. These look like nanobots, Alex said, pointing at tiny structures visible in the brain scans, but they're not active anymore. Lisa nodded. That's what I thought too. Someone put microscopic robots into her nervous system, but something went wrong. Instead of helping her, they caused inflammation and scarring. Alex felt angry as he read more of the data. She was just a child when this happened. Look at the bone development patterns. She couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old. Who would do experimental surgery on a child? Lisa asked. Before Alex could answer, Zira stirred on the medical bed. Her eyes opened, though they still didn't focus on anything. She spoke in her musical language, and the universal translator that Alex had been training finally provided a rough translation. Where am I? This place smells different. Alex moved closer to her bed. You're safe, Zira. You're on my ship with my people. We're trying to help you. Over the past few days, the translator had learned enough of Zira's language to allow basic communication. Zira had been learning some English words too, though it was difficult for her to make some of the sounds. Help? Zira's voice carried doubt. No one helps the broken ones. What do you mean? Alex asked gently. Zira was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was filled with old pain. My people, the Villani, we must be perfect. Strong body, strong mind. When the healing machines broke me instead of making me better, I became useless. Alex exchanged a look with Lisa. Zira, can you tell us about these healing machines? What were they supposed to do? Make me smarter, faster, better than others. Zira's 4 hands moved restlessly on the blanket. All young Villani get the enhancement when they reach the age of choosing. But mine went wrong. The tiny machines attacked my nerves instead of improving them. Lisa leaned forward. What happened after that? Pain, Zira said simply. So much pain. Then darkness. No sight, no feeling in my legs. The healers said nothing. Could be done. When the evacuation came, my family put me in the sleeping tube and left me behind. Alex felt his hands tighten into fists. The idea of abandoning a child because she was disabled made him furious. How long were you in that tube? 15 cycles, Zira said. 15 years and you're counting. 15 years, Alex repeated softly. You've been alone for 15 years. Zira turned her head toward his voice. Not alone. The machines kept me company. They sang to me sometimes when the power was strong. Alex's heart broke a little more. This young woman had spent 15 years in a medical tube, with only the sounds of life support machines for company. Her own people had given up on her and left her to die slowly. Zira, Alex said carefully, would you let us try to help you? Human medicine might be different from Villani medicine. Zira was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. You would do this, even though I am not your people? Yes, Alex said without hesitation. Humans don't give up on people just because they're hurt or different. Over the next few days, Alex threw himself into studying Zira's condition. He worked 18-hour days, comparing human anatomy to what he could learn about Villani biology. The similarities were surprising. Both species had evolved from creatures with backbones, and their nervous systems worked in much the same way. The nanobots that had damaged Zira were more advanced than anything humans had created, but the damage they had caused was similar to injuries Alex had seen before. Humans had developed many techniques for treating spinal cord injuries and blindness because they refused to accept that such conditions were permanent. Captain Miller visited the medical bay often, checking on their progress. The crew is talking, he told Alex during one visit. They all want to know if we can help her. And if we can't? Alex asked. Then we'll still take care of her, the captain said firmly. No one gets abandoned on my ship. Alex appreciated the support, but he was determined to do more than just take care of Zira. He believed she could be healed. The breakthrough came when Alex realized that the Villani nanobots had been designed to work with biological tissue in ways that humans had never attempted. While the bots themselves had malfunctioned, their basic approach could be combined with human medical techniques. Look at this. Alex showed Lisa his latest findings. The nanobots were trying to create new neural pathways by building tiny bridges between nerve cells. The concept is brilliant, but they used materials that caused immune reactions. So if we could do the same thing with biocompatible materials, Lisa said, understanding immediately. Exactly. We remove the damaged tissue and scar formations, then use human stem cell techniques to regrow the connections. But we guide the growth using modified versions of the Villani approach. Lisa looked concerned. Alex, this is completely experimental. We could make her condition worse or even kill her. I know the risks, Alex said. But what kind of life does she have now? She can't see, can't walk, and she's been alone for 15 years. At least this gives her a chance. That evening, Alex sat with Zira and explained what he wanted to try. He was careful to tell her about all the dangers. You could die, he said bluntly. Or the surgery could fail and leave you in worse condition than you are now. Zira listened carefully to everything he said. When he finished, she was quiet for several minutes. Alex, she said finally, in 15 years you are the first person to speak to me as if I matter. You are the first to believe I might be healed. Even if I die trying, it is better than living in this darkness forever. Are you sure? Alex asked. Zira smiled, and Alex realized it was the first time he had seen her smile. I am sure. When do we begin? Alex spent 2 weeks preparing for Zira's surgery. He contacted medical experts on Earth through quantum communication, sharing Zira's scans and asking for advice. The response was overwhelming. Doctors from around the world offered their knowledge and support for this historic case. Dr. Sarah Kim from Johns Hopkins sent detailed instructions for spinal cord repair techniques. Dr. Roberto Silva from São Paulo shared his research on nerve regeneration. Within days, Alex had access to the combined knowledge of humanity's best medical minds. "The support from Earth is incredible," Lisa said as she helped Alex review the surgical plans. "Everyone wants to help." "That's what humans do," Alex replied, checking his equipment for the 10th time that morning. "When someone needs help, we help." Zira had been preparing too, in her own way. She meditated using Villani techniques to calm her mind and strengthen her body for the ordeal ahead. She also spent time learning more English words, wanting to be able to communicate better during her recovery. "Are you frightened?" Alex asked her the night before the surgery. Zira considered the question carefully. "Yes," she said, "but also hopeful. For 15 years I have had no hope. Now I have both fear and hope, and that feels alive." The surgery was scheduled to take place in the New Dawn's advanced medical bay. Captain Miller had ordered the ship to maintain a steady course to avoid any vibrations that might interfere with the delicate operation. Tommy Chen had worked for days to modify the surgical equipment to accommodate Villani anatomy. The alien woman's forearms and different bone structure required special preparations. On the morning of the surgery, Alex felt nervous but determined. He had performed hundreds of operations but never one this important, not just for Zira, but for what it might mean for relations between humans and other species. Zira was calm as they prepared her for surgery. "Thank you," she said to Alex as the anesthesia began to take effect. "Whatever happens, thank you for seeing me as more than broken." The first phase of the surgery focused on Zira's spinal cord. Alex had to work around the forearmed anatomy, which meant the spinal structure was more complex than in humans. Using microscopic instruments, he began the careful process of removing scar tissue that had formed around the damaged nerves. "Scar tissue is more extensive than we thought," Alex reported to Lisa, who was monitoring Zira's vital signs. "But the underlying nerve structure is intact. That's good news." The Villani healing nanobots had actually done some things right. While they had caused damage, they had also prevented the complete destruction of nerve pathways. It was as if they had tried to repair themselves before finally shutting down. Alex worked slowly and carefully, removing damaged tissue and preparing the area for new growth. He implanted bioscaffolds, tiny structures that would guide nerve regeneration along the correct paths. These scaffolds were made from materials that Zira's body would eventually absorb as the nerves healed. "How are her vitals?" Alex asked during a particularly delicate part of the procedure. "Strong and steady," Lisa replied. "Her body is handling the surgery well." The most challenging part came when Alex reached the area where the nanobots had caused the most damage. The nerve tissue here was so scarred and twisted that it took him 3 hours to clear it away safely. "There," Alex said finally, placing the last bioscaffold. "Now we wait and see if her body can do the rest." The surgery had taken 8 hours. Alex was exhausted, but hopeful. Everything had gone according to plan, and Zira had tolerated the procedure better than he had dared to hope. For the first week after surgery, Zira remained unconscious while her body began the healing process. Alex checked on her constantly, monitoring for any signs of complications. The bioscaffolds were doing their job, guiding new nerve growth along the damaged pathways. Lisa finally had to order Alex to get some sleep. "You can't help her if you collapse from exhaustion," she said firmly. On the 8th day, Zira woke up. Her first words were a question in her own language, which the translator rendered as, "Did it work?" "We won't know for a while," Alex said honestly. "Nerve healing takes time, but everything looks good so far." Zira nodded, then tried to move her legs. Nothing happened, and Alex saw disappointment cross her face. "Give it time," he said gently. "Healing doesn't happen overnight." 2 weeks after the surgery, something wonderful happened. Alex was checking Zira's reflexes when she suddenly gasped. "What is it?" he asked. "My hand," Zira whispered, staring at her fingers. "I can feel my hand." Alex looked at her charts. Sensation was returning to her upper body exactly as he had hoped. The nerve pathways were reconnecting. Over the next few days, feeling gradually returned to more of Zira's body. First her arms, then her torso. She cried with joy the first time she could feel Alex touch her shoulder. "I had forgotten," she said, through her tears. "I had forgotten what it felt like to feel." 3 weeks after surgery, Zira moved her toe. It was just a tiny movement, barely visible, but Alex saw it and shouted with excitement. "Lisa! Captain, come quickly!" When they arrived, Zira demonstrated her new ability. She could wiggle the toes on both feet, and she had regained some sensation in her legs. "This is incredible," Captain Miller said, grinning broadly. "Alex, you did it." But Alex was looking at Zira, who was crying again. These were tears of pure happiness. "I can feel my feet," she said wonderingly. "For the first time in 15 years, I can feel my feet." The news spread quickly through the ship. Every crew member found an excuse to visit the medical bay and congratulate Zira on her progress. She was amazed by their kindness. "Your people are strange," she told Alex one day. "On my world, only family celebrates your victories. Here, everyone is happy for me." "That's because you're part of our family now," Alex replied. As Zira's strength returned, Alex began physical therapy to help her relearn how to use her body. It was slow work, but every day brought new progress. She could sit up without help, then stand with support, then take a few shaky steps. The day Zira walked across the medical bay on her own was a celebration for the entire crew. She was still unsteady, and she had to rest often, but she was walking. "Next we work on your eyes," Alex told her. The spinal surgery was just the beginning. Zira nodded, her face determined. "I trust you, Alex. You have already given me back my body. Now I want to see the faces of the people who saved me." Alex smiled. "Soon, Zira. Very soon." That night, Alex lay in his bunk thinking about how much had changed. A month ago, Zira had been trapped in darkness and unable to move. Now she was walking around the ship, talking with the crew and learning about human culture. But he knew the hardest part was still ahead. Restoring sight would be even more challenging than repairing her spinal cord. The optic nerves were delicate, and the connections to the brain were incredibly complex. Still, Alex felt optimistic. If Zira's recovery had taught him anything, it was that the human spirit of determination combined with alien resilience could overcome almost any challenge. Tomorrow, he would begin preparing for the surgery that would either give Zira her sight back or fail completely. There would be no middle ground. But tonight, Alex allowed himself to feel proud of what they had already accomplished. Zira was walking again, and that was a miracle in itself. 2 months after Zira's spinal surgery, Alex felt ready to attempt the much more dangerous procedure to restore her sight. The optic nerve surgery would be far more complex than anything he had done before. One mistake could not only fail to restore her vision but could damage her brain permanently. Zira had grown stronger during her recovery time. She could walk steadily now, though she still needed to rest often. More importantly, she had learned to navigate the ship by touch and sound. The crew had grown to love her gentle nature and curious questions about human culture. "Why do humans sing when they work?" she had asked Tommy Chen one day while he repaired a circuit panel. "Makes the work go faster," Tommy had replied, then taught her a simple work song. Soon, Zira was humming human melodies as she did her physical therapy exercises, but despite her progress, Zira still lived in complete darkness. Her eyes could not detect even the brightest lights in the medical bay. The damage to her optic nerves was severe. "Are you ready for this?" Alex asked her the night before the surgery. "This operation is much more dangerous than the last one. If something goes wrong, it could affect your thinking, your memory, even your personality." Zira sat quietly for a moment, her hands folded in her lap. She had learned to position herself toward Alex's voice when they talked, and her unseeing eyes seemed to look directly at him. "Alex," she said finally, 15 years ago my people put me to sleep because they thought I would never be useful again. 4 months ago you woke me up and gave me back my legs. You have already given me more life than I ever hoped for." She paused, then continued, "But I want to see your face. I want to see the stars through the windows of your ship. I want to see the colors that you describe when you talk about Earth. Even if there is danger, I choose to try." Alex nodded, though she couldn't see the gesture. "Then we'll try." The preparation for the eye surgery took even longer than the spinal operation. Alex had to map the exact pathway from Zira's eyes to her brain, which was different from human anatomy. Her people had larger visual processing centers, suggesting that Villani could see things that humans couldn't. Dr. Lisa Park worked alongside Alex, helping to prepare the specialized instruments they would need. "The good news is that her brain's visual cortex still shows activity," Lisa said, reviewing the scans. "That means it remembers how to process sight. The question is whether we can rebuild the connections," Alex replied. "The nanobots destroyed most of the optic nerve pathways. We'll essentially have to rebuild them from scratch." Captain Miller visited them the night before surgery. "The crew is praying for her," he said quietly. "And for you, Alex. Everyone knows how much this means." The surgery began early in the morning. Zira was calm as they prepared her, speaking softly to Alex as the anesthesia took effect. "I dreamed about colors last night," she whispered. "I dreamed that I could see a sunset on your Earth, with orange and pink and purple all mixed together. Hold onto that dream," Alex said as her eyes closed. "We're going to make it real." The surgery required Alex to work with instruments so small that he could barely see them even under maximum magnification. He had to remove all the damaged tissue from Zira's optic nerves, then carefully implant bioguides that would help new nerve fibers grow in the correct directions. The most delicate part came when Alex had to connect the new pathways to Zira's brain. The visual cortex was crowded with other important brain functions, and one slip could cause permanent damage. "Her brain activity is changing," Lisa reported during this phase. "The visual areas are showing increased electrical activity." "That's good," Alex said, not looking up from his work. "It means her brain is trying to reconnect." The surgery took 14 hours. At hour 10, Zira's blood pressure began to drop dangerously, and Alex had to pause the operation to stabilize her condition. For 30 minutes, it looked like they might lose her. "Come on, Zira," Alex whispered, as he worked to control the bleeding that had developed. "You're stronger than this. You've survived 15 years alone. Don't give up on me now." Gradually, her vital signs improved, and Alex was able to continue. The final connections were the most crucial. If these didn't work, the entire surgery would be a failure. When Alex finally stepped back from the operating table, he was exhausted and covered in sweat. "It's done," he said simply. Now came the waiting. Zira needed time to heal before they could test whether the surgery had worked. The new nerve pathways had to fully develop and connect properly to her brain. For 3 days, Zira slept deeply as her body recovered from the trauma of surgery. When she finally woke up, her first words were a question. "Can I see yet?" "Not yet," Alex said gently. "The nerves need more time to heal. Be patient." But Alex was worried. The healing was taking longer than he had expected, and there had been no signs that Zira's vision was returning. He began to fear that the surgery had failed. On the 5th day after surgery, Alex was checking Zira's pupils with a small flashlight when she suddenly gasped. "What was that?" she asked excitedly. "What was what?" Alex replied, his heart beginning to race. "Something changed. When you pointed that thing at my eyes, something changed. It wasn't dark anymore, it was different." Alex felt tears spring to his eyes. "Zira, I think you're seeing light." Over the next week, Zira's vision slowly improved. At first, she could only detect bright lights and deep shadows, but gradually she began to make out shapes and movement. The day she could see, Alex's face clearly for the first time was emotional for both of them. Alex had been adjusting her pillows when Zira suddenly reached out and touched his cheek. "Your face," she whispered, staring at him in wonder. "You have kind eyes, and your hair is the color of soil after rain." Alex found himself crying. "Can you really see me?" "I can see you," Zira said, tears flowing down her own face. "You are the first thing I have seen in 15 years, and you are beautiful." The crew celebrated when they heard the news. Captain Miller declared a ship-wide holiday, and Tommy Chen organized a party in the main lounge. Zira sat in the center of it all, looking around in amazement at the faces of the people who had become her family. "Everything is so bright," she said to Lisa. "And there are so many colors. How do you concentrate on anything with all these colors everywhere?" "You get used to it," Lisa laughed. "Wait until you see a rainbow." As Zira's vision continued to improve, she spent hours just looking at things. She stared at her own hands, amazed at how they looked. She watched the stars through the ship's windows, crying at their beauty. "On my world, we have 3 suns," she told Alex one day as they stood in the observation deck. "But I was too young when I lost my sight to remember what they looked like. Now I can imagine them by looking at your single star." "When you're fully healed," Alex said, "maybe we can visit your world. Maybe we can find your people." Zira was quiet for a moment. "Maybe," she said, "but this ship feels more like home than anywhere I can remember. Your people accepted me when I was broken. They celebrated with me when I was healed. Why would I want to go back to people who threw me away?" Alex understood her feelings, but he also worried about what would happen when they returned to human space. Would Zira be allowed to stay? Would the government try to study her? Would she be safe? These questions would have to be answered soon. The new Dawn was scheduled to return to Earth in 3 months, and Alex knew their arrival would cause a sensation. The first successful medical treatment of an alien would make headlines across the galaxy. But for now, Alex was content to watch Zira discover the visual world around her. Every day brought new wonders for her to see, and her joy was infectious. "Alex," she said one evening as they watched the stars together, "I know that humans help others because you believe it is right, but I want you to know that you saved more than my body. You saved my soul." Alex smiled. "You saved mine too, Zira. You reminded me why I became a doctor in the first place." 6 months after Alex first found Zira floating in that alien medical tube, she had transformed into someone completely different. She could walk, run, and even dance to the music that Tommy Chen played during their evening gatherings. Her vision was now perfect, perhaps even better than it had been before her accident as a child. But the biggest change was in her spirit. The frightened, broken woman Alex had discovered had become confident and joyful. She laughed often, asked endless questions about everything around her, and had developed close friendships with every member of the New Dawn's crew. "She's like a different person," Lisa observed one day as they watched Zira help Tommy repair a circuit panel. Her 4 arms made her incredibly useful for technical work that required multiple hands. "She's the person she was always meant to be," Alex replied. "Her people just never gave her the chance to become that person." Their peaceful routine was shattered when Captain Miller received an urgent communication from deep space. The message was in the same language that Zira spoke, though the universal translator was needed to understand it fully. "This is Admiral Korvac of the Villani Collective," the voice said coldly. "We have learned that a human vessel is harboring one of our citizens illegally. The individual known as Zira was abandoned according to our laws regarding defective citizens. Return her to us immediately for proper disposal." Captain Miller's face turned red with anger. "Proper disposal? They're talking about her like she's garbage." Zira had been in the room when the message played. Her face went pale, and Alex saw fear return to her eyes for the first time in months. "They found me," she whispered. "They want to take me back." "No one is taking you anywhere," Alex said firmly, putting his arm around her shoulders. "Captain, we can't let them have her." Captain Miller stood up slowly. "We won't. I'll contact Earth Command immediately. Meanwhile, we change course and head for human space as fast as possible." But the Villani ships were faster than the New Dawn. Within 2 days, 3 alien warships had surrounded them, preventing any escape. Admiral Korvac's face appeared on the main screen, showing a tall, pale alien with the same basic features as Zira, but with cold, empty eyes. "Humans," Admiral Korvac said with obvious distaste. "You have interfered with Villani law. Return our property, and we will allow you to leave unharmed." Captain Miller stepped forward. "Zira is not property. She's a sentient being who has requested asylum with humanity. We refuse to hand her over." "The creature is defective," the Admiral replied. "It serves no purpose. Our scientists wish to study what you have done to it before we dispose of it properly." Alex felt rage building inside him. "Her name is Zira, and she's not defective. She's brilliant, kind, and more valuable than 100 of you." Admiral Korvac's eyes focused on Alex. "You are the one who performed the medical procedures. Interesting. We will study you as well." Before Captain Miller could respond, another voice came over the communication system. It was Admiral Kate Ross of the Earth Defense Force. "This is Admiral Ross commanding the Third Fleet. Stand down immediately and withdraw from this system." The view screen split to show both Admiral Korvac and Admiral Ross. The human admiral was a stern woman with gray hair and eyes like steel. "This is not your concern, human," Admiral Korvac said dismissively. "We are reclaiming our property." "Zira has been granted emergency asylum by the Earth government," Admiral Ross replied coldly. "Any attempt to take her by force will be considered an act of war against humanity." Alex looked around the bridge in amazement. "How did Earth know about this?" Captain Miller smiled grimly. "I may have sent a few messages while you were busy playing doctor. Zira's story has reached every human world. She's become quite famous." On the screen, Admiral Korvac was clearly angry. "You would risk war over one defective creature?" "We would risk war over any being seeking freedom from oppression," Admiral Ross said firmly. "That's what humans do." The standoff continued for 3 tense days. Villani reinforcements arrived, but so did more human ships. Soon, 2 fleets faced each other across the emptiness of space. It was Zira who broke the deadlock. She asked Captain Miller to open a communication channel to all the ships. "I am Zira," she said, standing straight and looking directly into the camera. Her voice was clear and strong. "I was born Villani, but I choose to be human." Admiral Korvac's face twisted with disgust. "You are nothing. You are broken, useless, a waste of resources." "I was broken," Zira agreed calmly. "But humans do not abandon the broken. They heal them. They see value where others see only problems. In 4 months, Alex Carter showed me more kindness than my own people showed me in my entire life." She gestured toward Alex, who stood beside her. "This human risked everything to give me back my sight and my ability to walk. He asked for nothing in return except the chance to help. Can you say the same about Villani healers?" "Medical experimentation on alien subjects is forbidden," Admiral Korvac said, but his voice lacked conviction. "This was not experimentation," Zira replied. "This was compassion. Alex saw a person in pain and chose to heal that person. That is what humans do. That is why I choose to be human rather than Villani." She stepped closer to the camera. "I have learned about human history during my recovery. I know that humans have made mistakes, that they have fought wars and hurt each other. But I also know that when humans see suffering, they try to stop it. When they see someone who needs help, they help." Zira's voice grew stronger. "You call me defective, but I can see and walk and think clearly. You call me useless, but I help maintain this ship and contribute to its mission. You say I have no value, but every human on this ship treats me as family." She paused, then delivered her final words. "I renounce my Villani citizenship. I claim the right of asylum with humanity. And I will spend the rest of my life proving that humans were right to believe in healing rather than disposal." The communication channel was silent for several long moments. Finally, Admiral Korvac spoke. "Keep your defective pet," he said with contempt. "But know that the Villani Collective will remember this interference." The Villani ships turned and jumped to faster-than-light travel, disappearing from the system. Admiral Ross's fleet remained long enough to escort the New Dawn safely to Earth. The journey home took 2 weeks. During that time, Alex and Zira worked together on a comprehensive report of her medical treatment. They documented every procedure, every technique, every breakthrough that had led to her recovery. This information could help thousands of beings across the galaxy, Alex said as they reviewed their work. Spinal injuries, blindness, neural damage from accidents or disease. The techniques we developed for you could be adapted for dozens of species. Zira nodded thoughtfully. Then we should share it. We should teach others. We? Alex asked. If humanity will have me, Zira said, I want to work with you. I want to help heal others the way you healed me. I want to prove that the broken can become the healers. When the New Dawn reached Earth, they found crowds waiting for them. Zira's story had indeed spread across human space, and she had become a symbol of humanity's compassion and medical innovation. At the official ceremony welcoming her to Earth, Zira was granted full human citizenship. She stood on the stage next to Alex, looking out at thousands of humans who had gathered to celebrate her recovery. 6 months ago, she said to the crowd, I was abandoned and left to die because I was seen as worthless. Today I stand before you as living proof that no one is worthless, no one is beyond help, and no one should be abandoned. She gestured to Alex. This human saw value where my own people saw only problems. He gave me back my life, but more importantly, he gave me hope. Now I want to spend that life giving hope to others. The crowd erupted in cheers. Alex felt tears in his eyes as he watched Zira wave to her new people. Later that evening, at a smaller gathering of the New Dawn's crew, Captain Miller raised his glass in a toast. To Zira, he said, who reminded us why we explore the stars, not to conquer or to take, but to learn and to help. To Alex, Zira added, raising her own glass, who showed me that the best human weapon is not a gun or a bomb, but a kind heart and skilled hands dedicated to healing. As the celebration continued around them, Alex and Zira stepped out onto a balcony overlooking the city. Earth's sun was setting, painting the sky in the orange and pink colors that Zira had dreamed about during her surgery. It's more beautiful than I imagined, Zira said softly, watching her first Earth sunset. This is just the beginning, Alex replied. Tomorrow we start the Interspecies Medical Foundation. We're going to change the galaxy, one patient at a time. Zira smiled and took Alex's hand. Together? Together, Alex confirmed. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, both human and alien looked up at the vast universe above them. Somewhere out there were countless beings who suffered from injuries and diseases that could be healed. Somewhere out there were people who had been abandoned and written off as hopeless. Alex and Zira would find them. They would heal them. And they would prove over and over again that no one was ever truly broken beyond repair. The girl who had been blind and broken for 15 years was now ready to help others see again. And the human who had refused to give up on her